Johnny boy,
Adzy boy.
you've recently got married.
Jeez.
Engaged. I keep making that I can't make the distinction between the two. I just keep saying married. When I speak to people about you, I say he's recently been married, but you haven't.
No, I haven't. But I got engaged, and they are they're sort of two milestones on the same, process. So I understand why you confuse them, but to be married that quickly would require a bit of an Elvis Presley, Los Angeles marriage, right?
What did he do?
Las Vegas. No, to be officiated by an Elvis impersonator.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. Which, is on the cards. Two Greek Orthodox kids always dream of that sort of thing. Big Las Vegas strip.
And what? And Elvis lookalike officiating the wedding?
Yeah.
Like swearing you guys in or like on the mic? Is that what you're saying?
I think it's a common thing for like people to elope and go over to Las Vegas and get married by an Elvis impersonator in some, rat shit little chapel on the strip. And just to be clear, that's not our intention at all.
Does being drunk have to be a prerequisite of that or no?
I don't know.
No.
I'm thinking, The Hangover.
Yeah,
Have you watched
gotcha.
that movie?
No, I haven't.
That's down your alley,
Good?
I reckon.
Have you watched all three?
Good. Yeah, like they're in descending quality, definitely.
Yeah.
I've probably watched one.
Much
like
The Godfather.
You've recently watched the third.
All three.
Have you?
Mm.
Is the third the one where they're based in Italy?
No, that's the second one. The third one is, I guess it is the third one as well. They're in Italy. He has a big home in Italy in the end. And that's the one where his daughter dies.
Right. I'm pretty sure I watched the three of them on an international flight once. And I loved the first movie.
The first movie was brilliant.
The opening scene of the wedding in the Italian home is like my dream.
Yeah, I know. That
Can you
inspired
imagine
me too. Yeah.
Bro.
Dude.
Don Corleone. They used to call me the Prince of Lygon Street when I was living in Melbourne. So it's hard. People don't recognize me up here.
Would you want someone coming into your office and asking for you to do a hit as well? That would be pretty lit.
On the day of my daughter's wedding. You come to me on the day of my daughter's wedding.
How long was that flight? 17 hours.
I suspect it was a trip to Greece once, 10 years, I don't know, about X number of years ago.
Yeah.
Would have been a 14-hour flight, and I think I crunched the 9 hours of film in one sitting. Would have ended badly, but,
Bro, that movie messed me up a little bit. Like,
Which one? Horsehead one?
Godfather. All three of them.
three?
Yeah, because what happened was I got so soaked up in Michael Corleone and his character that, like, I just wanted to be him.
Yeah, yep.
And
But
like that persona.
That's the thing. That's that whole genre, right? Like, have you watched? There's a really famous TV series, The Sopranos. I haven't watched that either, but I'd like to.
Yeah.
And I think one of the incredible things about these is that it humanizes gangsters in a good and a bad way, but it also like shows you that I like when films or TV shows show you that grey area that like it's a human, but he's also got a dark edge, and the fact that it resonates with you or you empathize with that experience is like
It's pretty...
and then they become murderous and you start feeling a bit icky about yourself. So
Jordan Peterson's got a great bit on that where he talks about the human capacity for evil and like why we resonate with characters that not just good characters who are harmless and are constantly nice, but more so people go to watch action movies and horror or thriller movies where the main character goes from someone really, really bad, evil, terrible to someone who can tame himself and does have that within him but can control it. And it's like this character arc of him going upwards.
yeah, give me an example.
I would say The Godfather is the opposite, but dude,
The Batman?
most action movies,
Right.
The Batman,
Yeah,
I could name hundreds.
sure. Well,
No,
you couldn't.
I could name 10.
Yeah, 2.
The Batman, that's it.
Batman 1, 2, 3. Give you 3.
Yeah.
Look, I love this. I love this stuff. This motif of like that trajectory, the hero's journey. discovering something dark in you and having to wrestle it into order. I think that's an amazing, human story.
Everyone has that, you reckon?
Oh, I don't know. Look, I what do you think? Do you think everyone has the capacity for bad?
I reckon. Yeah. And so you should. Like, there's nothing virtuous about being a harmless rabbit. You know, like if you say, "Oh, I'm good because I haven't done any harm and I have no capacity for harm," then it's like, well, there's nothing virtuous because you couldn't have committed the act anyways. So you're not doing any good.
Yeah.
It's more virtuous when someone is well and truly capable of that, but then holds it back and can control themselves.
Yeah.
And that's the main point in like learning disciplines like martial arts or karate. That's what they teach you. They teach you to be the most dangerous version of yourself as you possibly can, but then to control it.
Right.
And that's to me
and,
is
not to jump on the martial arts example, but the first rule of fighting usually is how to avoid a fight. I think that this is a really significant point. Like, yeah, I agree. I think that people who don't believe in their own capacity to do bad, I think a lot of things about that. One, I think that it can often make them quite impotent. Like it can make them, or like it is a repressive. They're repressive of their like worst impulses. And the other thing is, dude, I love history. We can speak about this. History is, I've particularly sort of rediscovered it recently. It has been my lifelong like passion. You just have to open any good book of history to see how fucking bad the way humans have acted over time. Not to say, oh, we have got it right now, but as a way of saying, oh, what are we doing now? What might I be capable of doing now that is bad? So and then we could, not sure how far you want to take this thing.
We want to take it far.
But I've got lots of thoughts about it, man. I think that the Christian ethic, which is one that I have grown up around, the like of Christianity, is one of there's all these kind of philosophical discussions about this, and Nietzsche comes along and talks about the will to power and things like that. And the Christian ethic you'd think might be soft and meek, but I think what it's doing is actually identifying our capacity for bad or for sin in that vernacular, and saying, okay, identify that and choose something else. Not it doesn't exist.
Yep.
One of the example that's popped to mind for me about this, what you just mentioned about martial arts, is football. For me, I played Aussie rules football. I have forever. Soccer and footy were my sports growing up. Footy was something that I've done to like pretty high level at an amateur standard, if you know what I mean, balanced with studies, etc. And it really was once I rediscovered. Oh no! I broke my leg several times playing football. It drained the fun out of it. I had a bit of a chip on my shoulder about not having taken it further, but also not wanting to give up playing. It took me to figure out while I went on a gap year that footy was this avenue in my life that allowed me to channel like pure aggression and strength and like, energy in a contained way.
Yep.
That I started to really treasure the last few years that I have playing this sport. I don't want to play it forever, but it's this safe container. There's something so important about this container in which men can like unleash. Now, there's a problem with that, is that most men don't know how to fucking contain it. And you go play NTFL here. You've got a lot of buffoons running around, not containing it, but trying to take that aggression beyond the game of football and swinging fists and doing things, reckless stuff, which for me is a failure of character. That's like an inability to channel this energy in a productive capacity. So that's the thing. That's like my attention is I love this sport. I love what it allows for men, but it also brings out whenever you walk that grey zone, you're going to have infringements either way. So
yeah. That's why one of the reasons why sports like UFC and boxing has such a following, man. Like it's, it's pretty concerning that there's millions and millions and millions of people watching two people like near beat each other to death. I've thought that one time watching a UFC game, like what am I even watching here? Like, and why doesn't anyone stop this? Because this guy's just getting absolutely mauled, and like people are clapping, and it's like it's almost disturbing, but we just can't get enough. I remember having this chat with you a while ago about, like, I think your sister said it to you, like, men sometimes have a tendency, especially young men, to go into war. Do you remember that?
I remember the conversation, yeah.
And like that was at a time where I was speaking to you about like, perhaps not directly going into war, but like some sort of urge that I had to do something like that, or like to get out of the realm I'm in.
Yeah.
That was a fascinating period of time for me.
Can I point? Yeah, go on.
Go on. No, go on.
Do you remember how that period of time for you was? There was like a simultaneous impulse to explore like religious belief, in a similar with a similar level of intensity.
Yeah,
isn't that funny?
It is
that those two wires crossed over at that point in time.
Yeah, big time.
You know, maybe the common thread is wanting something to believe in, like something to believe in so much that you're willing to put your life on the line for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's fascinating. I think my sister was doing an honours year in psychology at the time, and she'd read something about young men's fervent, like mid-20s, early 20s men fervently committing themselves to religious doctrine in much the same way that young men are often sent to war at that age.
Yeah.
You know, there was some kind of correlation. I can't, you know, I can't sort of take that any further, but to say that, you know, I see the link between this channeling of something, the trajectory, the hero's journey that I mentioned before, the coming of age of being a man. And dude, I've told you about this before. This is one of the most endlessly fascinating and most important things for me. Of course, that's self-selecting because I'm a young man trying to come of age, or have been over the last 10 years. I just turned 28 last week. So that's 10 years since I became a, you know, quote unquote adult. Mm. It's been a pretty cool decade. And the, you know, bloody hell, as I say that, and maybe to circle back from the conversation that got hijacked but by my mention of Elvis Presley, that's the end of that decade concluded with my engagement to a woman that I love. Yeah. That's a big fucking commitment.
Pretty big trajectory as well, hey?
Yeah.
Where did that, what would that, talk me through that decade? Like I remember you telling me that you got well into that space about like trying to learn about yourself and figuring out what you as a man are capable of, or like who are you really? Mm. What was that all about? I reckon I'm going through something similar. That's why.
I shouldn't jump to an assumption. Cool. I'd love to speak about it. I think I should just flag from the outset that not everyone views it the same way, and I probably don't have the same conviction in my own experience, or kind of like I haven't got enough distance from it yet to say, oh, this is for everyone. Yeah. I don't think that's Jordan Peterson's domain. Like he's got the wisdom to say this is what I think's for everyone. Yeah. Sure, that's not mine. But I was, oh man, how do you want me to go about that? Run you through the decade, or talk specifically about that period where I was most in it?
However you think it'll convey the best.
All right. Well, I think there's probably some context necessary, and part of my context is going back to when I was a bit younger.
Yeah.
I was at a school. I moved to a school in high school that was all boys, and I guess in most metrics, I succeeded there. I did very well. I loved it. I thrived. Had good mates. I worked my ass off academically and did well there. Became a school leader in a number of capacities. School captain. Sport was my domain. I had a ball. What it also did, I think, was kind of set me up with some, you know, with some golden handcuffs, some expectations of myself that I felt I needed to sustain. And that's just, you know, when I'd been given every opportunity, I'd done well in them, and I felt like I had to be on this particular trajectory. And I remember when I got to the university, studied some things I was passionate about. A couple of the carriage on that train just started like ricketing a little bit. Mm. When I first decided not to go down the path of medicine, for various reasons, which is what my parents both are in. And I think for the purpose of this conversation, specifically my father is in, there's a big shock to the system. Like, holy shit, for the first time, I'm like, whoa, I'm separate from my father. That's like a mythological theme in a story, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not following that footpath.
Yeah.
Took a couple of years to sort of all settle in. I finished an arts degree in history and politics and economics, and I sort of had a buffet of intellectual delight for years.
Yeah.
Of course, what am I going to do with that? In my mind, I've got to go to law school. I've got to go do something. Did the classic thing, went to graduate school, went to the best law school I could possibly find, got in. Or, I'm conscious of the incredible privilege that all of this is. But halfway through that, mate, the wheels came off the carriage completely. I was in the... It got to at the end of my first year, I was like, what am I doing here? But I sort of shelved that and said, I'm going to do everything I possibly can to make this experience as enjoyable and as rewarding and enriching as I possibly can. So I found a few opportunities that made that the case, some brilliant ones. I was like, it was perfect. I was working with an academic who was like, he was so cool. He was like an ex-military guy working in Asian Pacific military and security and peace law, stuff like that. Did a course in Jerusalem and got to go over to to the Middle East on a course on international law, right?
Yep.
Am I saying too much?
No, I love it.
Yeah.
Keep going, mate.
Long-winded story, but I got back and pretty much realized that even with these opportunities, I just was like missing. Like I just wasn't there. I was a shell, mate. I was like, that next semester, it was like lights on, no one's home. I was a shell of myself. I became withdrawn. I became really far removed from everyone around me at university. I'd gone from this intensely social experience at undergrad to really becoming quite resigned and down on myself. Now, I know that a lot of people get this experience at law school in their early mid-20s. It's not an unusual thing. There was some mental health, I was not mentally ill, but I was going through some of the disturbances of mental kind of well-being that I think a lot of people go through as a young adult. People deal with that in various different ways, depending on circumstance, et cetera, et cetera. I guess I'm just trying to stress that I'm aware of the fact that my experience was unique to my own conditions, right? But hey, how the fuck could it be any other way? So I started working with a group, incidentally, because I had been doing some mental health stuff as the school captain at Saints. Mentoring young boys and men had always been something that I've excelled at. Like connecting with guys has always been something I do well.
Yeah.
And I wanted to carry through this thing. I found out an organisation called the Man Cave that worked in the facilitation space. They went and worked with young boys at school and taught them like this curriculum on emotional intelligence and kind of just like broke down some of the social barriers at school and got them thinking about things differently, speaking about each other and themselves in ways that they would be unfamiliar with.
Yeah.
The awesome thing about that, and thanks for bearing with me, is that the process of being a part of that organisation was being trained to hold those seminars for young guys. And what it meant was I was 23, 24 in this group of maybe 12, 25 to 30-year-old guys, all like really actively trying to like work on themselves and understand themselves and improve themselves.
Yeah.
And I just kept getting blown away by some of the insights I was getting there. Like the challenge of trying to understand myself better. And it led me to a space where I was like, fuck, I did these incredible things. I'm happy to talk about them. But it got me to a state of mind where I was able to say, whoa, I need to pump the brakes here on what I'm doing in the outside world and work on the inside world for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I did that like I relished that. I took that on. There's more to say about it, but I realized that moment where I was like, fuck, the inside world here needs the most work. I'm going to honor that. I got to honor that.
How'd you do it?
I went through it sounds funny, but for me it was an excruciating process of standing up and saying to my parents, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to pull out. I'm going to pull out of law school.
Yeah.
And perhaps, that speaks to the kind of relationship I have to my parents. My parents are, second-gen migrants, hardworking professionals, high standards. That's it's a hard conversation to have.
Heavy stuff, yeah.
It's heavy stuff.
Yeah, big time.
You feel like a failure.
Yeah.
Right? But they came around to it. They understood. In
Yeah.
due course, definitely.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to go. I realized what I need right now, that I need to do something that I'm going to be proud of. Because I wasn't proud of myself. I was whatever the opposite of being proud of yourself is, that's what I was. I was like languishing through a law degree that I didn't enjoy, didn't know why I was doing it. And at the time, I was pointing fingers out at the world a lot, going, it's the fucking law degree. It's the reasons I'm here. It's the people that have made me do this. In due course, I realized that it was more about myself. And so getting away from that, going home, working on a labouring site as a labourer.
To Adelaide or Greece?
Adelaide.
Yeah.
But saving up money to then chuff off and travel.
Yeah.
For me, that was a thing.
You worked on a labouring site?
Yeah, worked on big house renovations, digging trenches for plumbing mostly. It was good fun.
Brilliant.
But it was also like, man, I had this like thing in my teeth. I was like, I'm going. All the builders were giving me advice on how to pick up chicks and how to talk to girls and all this stuff. Some terrible advice. Terrible.
Bro, that's I mean, you're still going to keep going, but I think what I'm experiencing at the moment as well is in this bubble of like law, of like corporate, like posh, really, procedural, really professional environment. It's like, I loved it at the start and there's, you can soak it all up. But at the moment where I'm at is like, I just want to be around normal people. And there's this just urge for me to go and work at like, some sort of difficult tradie job in the sun with normal tradie boys and have those normal discussions that are outside politics and philosophy and, just talk about chicks or what movie we watched the night before. I find myself, I've been recently going back to my old job just as a retail worker.
Yep.
Up here, and like that was when I was like at my happiest, I reckon, bro. But I almost didn't realize because I was like, fuck, I want to do this and I wish I could do this, and I feel like I just feel like people are judging me at this time and I'm not living up to my expectation. But now I find myself going back there and like that group of people were just so brilliant because they could just like insult me as much as they wanted. We insulted each other. It was just like normal and no one took themselves seriously. Like I've been going there every weekend, like trying to get out of this.
Working?
No, not working. Just going and visiting. And man, it's it's good. Like it's it's unreal. So did you probably had something like that or?
Yeah, look, I get that.
Yeah. I'm like one of my friends even told me recently that he went and he's incredibly intelligent. He is doing biomedicine or something at university and got a scholarship and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But he took a gap year and he worked on the Paspaley boats.
That's right. I remember him.
Yeah.
Good on him.
And he always does that stuff, bro. Like he's like really quite bogan. Like you would not expect him to be hyper smart or even hardworking in that sense.
Okay.
Like I played cricket with him and you would really think he was pretty stupid, like just from the way he talked. But that was fascinating to me.
There's also this thing when I was exploring these ideas, I had kind of two sources of inspiration.
Yeah.
One was the hero's journey stuff that we were talking about before, the kind of fairy tales that they called, or the myths that we've always told ourselves. And there were some of them. There's so many different books. I read them all. I read everything I could about coming of age, about the great tale of adventure and coming home and finding the richness, the treasure. And that inspired me. That kind of gave me like an internal logic to think about what I was doing. And so it was really significant for me at that point in time. Even the fact that my dad, as a young adult or 18-year-old, had read something similar enabled him to make sense of what I was going off to do.
Right.
then there was also this other thing, which was not that successful people. When you look at the world, right? I remember reading, dude, the things that you listen to in these moments of vulnerability stick with you, right?
Yeah.
Or listen to or read, right? I remember reading this, I couldn't tell you what it was or who it was, but it was this thing. He was like, listen, he's like, A+ students get jobs at the best companies. Should I drop the accent?
No, keep going with the accent. Yeah,
He's like,
I can picture
and
this dude.
those companies,
This dude was bold.
probably,
Yeah.
American dude, like a hustler.
Yeah, hustler.
You know?
A beard. Good beard. Yeah.
He's like, and they're managed by B+ students in companies run by C+ students who pay the rent in buildings owned by D+ students. And he was like, just like this inversion of the logic that the high achiever continues up this like ladder.
Yeah.
And it was funny for me because I felt trapped in this like thing where I was like, okay, if I'm doing the best I possibly can right now at what I'm doing, where does that get me? It seemed to be getting me to a law firm, a big law firm, the biggest law firm, the best paying, the most prestigious law firm. And I started getting panicked when I was like, wait a second, where does that get me? What if I don't want to be there? Yeah. What all of a sudden this thing just like falls apart. This and all of a sudden I'm looking at people that have gone off and started big companies who, not despite their starts, but because of their starts on pearling boats or on construction sites or on mines or in like charities in India, have gone on to do successful things because they're not like beholden to this like rigid paradigm of thinking about how you get ahead. Yeah. So, it was a moment of time for me where a lot of the things that I had clung to had sort of crumbled a little bit. Yeah. And that's cool. It's cool to talk about that now with you because I think I've kind of, I don't know, I've emerged from that rubble a bit and I'm doing, I've finished my law degree. I've gone back into law, albeit with a little bit of a different kind of outlook and disposition to what I would have if I'd carried on, carried the torch on back in 2017, 18, 19, which is when I took the time off.
And what's the future like for you now? What do you reckon?
Well,
I've been thinking hard about this.
For me?
For both?
For you. Yeah, cool. Well, look, for the future for me is the immediate future is return to my hometown of Adelaide. Yeah. Settle into life with my fiancée.
Nice
one, eh?
Yeah.
And I'm starting a job at a law firm in Adelaide. Yeah. So you sort of sit there going, how's that any different to what you're saying?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how it is any different. But I do know that I wouldn't have even considered the possibility of working at the sort of law firm, doing the sort of work that I'm doing 3 or 4 years ago, because I wasn't in touch with what I was interested in or what I had interest in doing. So whilst my, say, vision for myself or what I want to do right now is still like loosely held, I kind of have a sense of where it's going in a broad brush. Whereas 3 or 4 years ago, I felt like I would have been, my choices would have been influenced more by what other people around me were choosing or aspiring to, rather than what I, being connected to myself. Yeah. And let me tell you, there's a lot of fucking good theory about why people do that.
Do what? Do the things that other people do around them rather than what they want themselves.
Yeah, when you get back to law school and you see the clerkship process, it's like one of the most incredible experiences of people funneling themselves into a particular avenue. And for good reason. High prestige, high pay, high status, high opportunity, etc. If you ask people what they want to do at the start of law school and how many of them will say go into commercial law, very, very few. Yeah. Most people will say human rights or something.
Yeah. Nuffies.
But I read a book recently. I'm going to give this book to you. By a guy called Luke Burgess. And he's written kind of like a relatively, user-friendly guide to a philosopher called René Girard. Have you heard of Peter Thiel, the investor?
Yep.
Peter Thiel was like a modern disciple of this Girardian theory. He's a French social kind of philosopher whose key theory is called Mimetic Desire. Goes something like this. you, Addy, Dave, the like super cool podcaster, high status dude. I come in here and I see that you have a Basisto air diffuser.
Yeah.
And I want to be a cool podcaster with high status and a lot of sexy followers.
Yeah.
I'm going to go get a Basisto's air diffuser. And it sounds like a silly example, but writ large, so much of the way that we
Function.
encounter the world,
Yeah.
like engage in the world materially, is determined by what we think other people want. And so this Luke guy has come across with this like idea of how do you train yourself to be anti-mimetic? Like how do you do things that are like actively not mimicking the mass or the mob?
Yep.
I don't know. It's probably been the most influential idea I've come across in the last little while.
Yeah.
Last while, yeah.
What's his summary?
Oh, how do you summarize it? I think the summary is pretty much put this way. If you don't get in touch with like who you are and what you want in some respect, not like what you want, like not if you don't get in touch with who you are and what you want, you're going to be on an endless like hamster wheel of wanting more because other people want it.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, this isn't about saying don't want things. This isn't about saying don't aspire to owning a big house or don't aspire to this. But just be clear on why you want that.
Right.
Because chances are, if you want something like a sports car, it's because somewhere you've accepted or you've internalized the desire that is what you want in order to be a
Gotcha.
high flying person.
Yeah. I remember speaking to you about this a while ago, about like what I wanted to do and why I wanted to do it, and you talking about people in law school not wanting to go into commercial, rather go into human rights or like work for agencies like Naja or the agencies that advertise helping other people. And I said, dude, like, I think that's a little bit of a privileged position to come from, to even say that you're going to ditch the money and you're going to do something that like really matters to you in some sense, and go and help people. And I essentially said, fuck that.
Yeah.
Like I'm going corporate.
Yep.
I'm going where the money is. And not because I want to buy a Lamborghini or fucking, I'd love to live in a nice house, but the main reason for me was that I want to give back to my parents.
Yeah.
And like that's something maybe that has come through being a migrant and seeing my parents, do everything they can to solely for money.
Yeah.
Because you I don't know, your parents are probably different, but I know for Indian parents, bro, like they they just want to be rich.
Sure.
And that's their only goal. Like they're not fucking human rights advocates or activists or anything like that. They're just
Is it rich for the sake of being rich, or is it rich for the sake of being secure in this new hometown that they've moved to, new home, home country?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a difference, dude.
Yeah, big time, bro. And
look, I'll just say something.
Yeah.
I actually, what the idea that I'm talking about, this mimetic desire,
yeah,
Naja is not excluded from that.
Of
On
course.
the contrary, I think it's like
it's more
as much
like
as
look at this
anything
guy. Look at this guy. How good he is. How much he's helping people. Maybe I'm missing something within myself, and I want to discover that, and I want to be a helpful person. Let me try and follow this man. And it's like well, is this and much of what I see there is like selfish reasons for working at that place. It's like not trying to actually help the people that you're supposedly helping, but trying to help yourself, trying to find yourself. Disturbing, I think.
yeah.
And you don't have to say anything about that. I'll say that about that agency, but that's where I'm at the moment, and like I've been really pushed back for people who are like followers like that, and I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I hear you. I think that I hear you. I think that people are led to some of this work for idealistic reasons. But dude, I don't know. Selfish, I understand, but we're all self-interested in some respect. It's a murky one, isn't it?
Big time.
Yeah. I've got a question for you.
Hit me.
What's the last time
Yeah.
you did something really fucking hard?
Like, are we talking physically?
Doesn't matter.
The world I'm in, I'd say the other day trying to find some case authority about delay in complaint.
Delaying a complaint?
Yeah.
What do you mean by delaying a complaint?
Delay in complaint.
Oh, okay.
Like trying to find
historical abuse?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not like even reading about it, just like trying to find some sort of case to back up my presuppositions that I was trying to help someone out with, right? Now,
At work, okay.
now let me tell you this.
What?
That's not hard, right?
Right.
Well, I'm thinking hard as in like, bro, if we're talking probably some of the hardest stuff I've done in my life, which was a long time ago, I worked for this tiling guy for like 3 days. That's it. And I had to carry these big, heavy tiles up
heavy.
these stairs.
Yep.
And meanwhile, while this like small little Italian dude is like 45 is just grilling me, smoking cigarettes outside, like telling me how dumb I am. That was the hardest thing. But at the moment, that was probably like what 3.5 years ago now. And so nothing even equates to that.
To that.
Nah, not even in the slightest.
Well, I think it's probably an unfair representation. I mean, choosing to forego university to start a job, it's a hard decision. Might not be hard.
Yeah.
In other ways.
Maybe
Relationships ending, choosing to publish a podcast in the like ether, public domain. I think this is all hard stuff. I guess I'm talking about but at the same time, I'm also what I'm coming to you here is really with a thought like, fuck, I think it's about time I did something hard again.
Yeah. Let me say this. I reckon in 15 days when I leave to Melbourne, that will be it.
Yeah. Man.
That will be it. Because I've left my family a few times to go interstate and it just sucks.
Yeah.
It just sucks. It's just because I'm my only child and I'm a sucker for my parents, mate. And I think that will be hard. Very, very hard. So, and especially going into the new world, like I've booked a place for myself. I don't know who my roommates are. I've got to sort out my transportation every day. I've got to sort out my subjects. I think it'll be all a new experience.
Yeah, for sure.
So in 14 days, I think that'll be my answer. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Isn't that something exciting to look
Big
forward
time.
to?
Yeah.
Real challenge.
Yeah.
Man, that's going to be a journey the whole way through your time in Melbourne at university, being away from your family and your parents. I felt it as the eldest in my family with a younger brother, younger sisters too, but my younger brother was 10 years younger and like I left at a time when he was, informative kind of early teenage years.
Yeah.
My girlfriend also went to university in Melbourne. She was an only child and she struggled with that big time throughout.
Really?
It's a challenge. It's a journey.
Yeah. I think it's not even exclusionary to just like only children. I think like sometimes I feel like, fuck, I'm an only child. I wish my parents had siblings. Sorry, I wish my parents had, I wish I had siblings or like my parents would adopt. So when I go away, it wouldn't be as hard on them. But like, bro, it's the same thing. Like you leaving your brother at the time when he was growing up, or like I have a friend who's a twin and she left her twin sister to go away.
Yeah.
And that would be the hardest thing ever.
Yeah.
Because those two are connected.
Yep. Recently, my twin cousins separated to go to separate medical schools.
Man.
Yeah.
It's munted.
Yeah, dude. It's not... Look, the other thing is, what you said there is, I wish my parents had another child or an adopted child.
Yeah.
So that we wouldn't have to encounter this difficult moment or so I wouldn't have to navigate this challenge. I think the truth is that challenge is always going to be there. So like, accepting it, lean into it, work your way through it. That's like life. I think that is a fucking hard thing you're going to do. And that's going to be massive for your growth.
Yeah.
Growing up, this is part of the hero's journey that it seems is going to be a theme of our conversation.
What's been yours? I already know.
My hero's journey?
What's been your hardest thing?
Look, leaving Adelaide was hard to go to university, but the hardest thing, I think, for me has been that moment in 18 when I turned around and said, I'm leaving law school
Yeah.
and I'm going away. Because of what it represented inside of me, it was like this big schism.
Yeah.
It was like a big moment for me. I felt like a stranger to myself and the world around me, man. And it took me a few months to start like getting into myself.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you about that. But I want to share this story with you. There's this book called Iron John, by an American poet called Robert Bly. I loved it. It was one of the last books I read before I like chuffed off.
Yep.
Another book was like The Alchemist, which you might have heard of. All good stuff, all like a little bit cringy and cliche, all have little bits of kind of gold if you want to extract it. And if you're that way inclined. I remember being at this little retreat with these men from the man cave. And I wanted to tell you this story because I think it's cool.
Yeah.
And
where are we, by the way?
We're in Melbourne.
We're in Melbourne. Okay.
Specifically, We're at the Carlton Football Club's home ground in like one of their YMCA run facilities, shared space things. Right?
Footy players.
No, these aren't footy boys. These are the man cave boys. We're just using that space.
Okay, gotcha.
Renting it.
Yep.
We're doing like an evening workshop
Yep.
on things like listening, training, like the way we engage with people.
Yeah.
And we had to draw some reflection of where we're at. And I was like, man, I was just like dark clouds.
Yeah.
I couldn't see out of this thing, bro. I was like struggling.
Yeah.
And there was this metaphor that they were using from Iron John about this well, right? Like a water well. And a well at the top is like dark, murky water, right? Really, really disgusting. And at the top of it, there are people that have like been throwing their gold coins into the wishing well. But that's all it is. It's like a wish.
Yep.
I'm going to throw my wish into the well and hope it comes true. The kind of idea was that, if you're feeling in that murky water, if you're like in that, effectively it was this. The only way to get that dream, like the gold coin is symbolic of the dream. The only way to get that dream and make it like real is to plunge into the well and like get through that murky crap.
Gotcha.
And get to the clear water and pick up the dreams. Anyway, the exercise that they wanted to take us through was really focused on trying to me. He was like, "You willing to do something with me?" I was like, "Yeah, why not?" I'd never heard of this sort of thing before. But he's like, "Take your shoes and socks off. Leave your like pocket, stuff in your pockets on the floor, and come stand in front of that well, facing us." So 15 blokes around me, 12, whatever, in a semicircle, looking at me. He looks at me and goes, "Righto, Johnny. I need you to scream at me and the group as loud as you physically can, unrestrained. And I'm not going to accept a scream that is not what I believe to be the hardest you can go. But as soon as I believe that you're screaming as loud as you physically can, we are, as a collective, going to start screaming right back at you and match the intensity of yours." So I was like, okay, fucking awkward. Sitting there going, right, have you ever screamed as loud as you can?
Nah, bro. No. I feel like I'd burst out in tears.
I was close, right? There was some precipice of like tears, excitement,
Anger.
anxiety, bruh.
Yeah.
Anger. Like, how do you channel screaming? Anger, really. It's like being like to get that fucking grunt. Anyway, I screamed like as if I was, from like here.
Yeah.
Everyone like looked, and I like laughed awkwardly. And I think I'd like clap my hands like, "Come on, boys, scream back." Like something like that. And they were deadpan, man.
And these boys are in the same level as you in terms of that group, like, or are they leaders, or are they?
A few of them were leaders. Like the guy that was talking to me directly, he's like an experienced hack. He's only 30, but he had a lot of work in social work and stuff like that. And I think the world of him and his skill set.
Yeah.
And some of these guys, right?
Yeah.
They were all, I'd say, a little bit more mature than me, developed, right? And they were willing for me to be a bit of a guinea pig, if you will, because I was really going through a moment. Like it was like I was like the perfect experiment.
Yeah.
They weren't taking advantage. Of course, it was like I felt so safe. Anyway, screamed a second time, 3, 4 times. And like now I'm starting to get like raw in the throat and like blood in the face. And I was like, you know, and I think it was like 6, 7, 8. And I was like, fuck. By this time I was like not thinking about whether they'd join me. And I was just going like, screaming. And then I like hit it again. And I think on that one, my voice almost faltered a bit, like it couldn't keep up with what was coming from here. Yeah. And then they just let rip back at me.
They all knew?
They just went like, one of them, I think the guy was like, wow. He like stood forward and the rest just like chimed in like a choir man of like angry men, right? It was fucking epic. And I felt, dude, exhilarated. Like one of those moments where you're like, holy shit, I just got in touch with like what it feels like to be alive.
Yeah.
And I was floating on clouds and telling my closest friends about it for like days on end. But it was an epic experience. It was an epic experience because it was new and foreign to me. It was novel. I had this incredible group of men that were willing to like hold space for me and like let me really fucking work through this murky water that I was working on. And it was incredible because I got to like this clear water at the end of it, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I think that experiences like that, experiences where you get in touch with the sense of like how alive you are and how beautiful it is, are epic. I think that there'd be lots of ways to do it on much smaller, you know. I don't think it requires exercises like that.
Yeah.
But when you called me last week on Thursday or Friday after my birthday, and I'd proposed to Theodora on the Wednesday night, that was a moment.
Really?
Yeah. There were like 2 hours after we proposed, after we got engaged, where we just sat on the picnic, you know, rug, and it was like, fuck, this is it.
This is it. That's just brilliant. I couldn't tell you how happy I was when I got that message, mate.
Thanks, mate.
That was just brilliant. I just couldn't keep it in. I just had to tell everyone.
Oh, I'm so glad you did.
I told 2 people, but fuck, like that was. I couldn't believe it because you had told me that you were going to wait.
I was going to wait.
You're actually my first friend that I can think of to get engaged. Well, yeah, I think so.
Awesome.
Dude, how talk me through it. Like, I guess what I'm getting at is. No, okay. Talk me through your thoughts before deciding to propose to Theodora.
Well,
like you can take this far back as you want.
Well, I think that from the outset of our relationship, we were friends before that. We were family friends from like a very early age, both within the Greek community, and there was like a general. We had a friendship that strengthened as we travelled. On that gap year, we incidentally travelled at the same time as one another. Incidentally, but then travelled together as friends. And the friendship, the bond was strong, but there was this sense that like, you know, you don't want to just dive in or experiment with a relationship with someone that's so close to home.
Yeah.
And so it took us a long time to get to the precipice of, you know, hey, if there's some really strong feelings here. How do we go? Like, what do we do? Right? That was, loosely the conversation without boring you with the intimate conversations, of course. But once we plunged into a relationship, it was like quite intense because we both felt a real need to make this work. And that was awesome. It was like, I don't know, a year and a half plus of just really figuring it out. Probably 6 months ago, it became clear to both of us that we wanted to take the relationship to this next stage. We had been speaking about it, but I wanted the proposal to be somewhat of a surprise. And we both were on the same page of where we wanted this to go and that life was sort of about to commence for us together.
Yeah.
Now, it was a few conversations with my family, a conversation with her parents where I was like, I'm going to do this when I get back to Adelaide. And then I was like, holy moly, I cank keep this in. I just want to get started.
I knew, mate. I knew you would crumble.
Yeah.
Like you can't.
Well, you think crumble. I think it was grabbing the bulls by the
horn. Oh, big time. But you can't that's like for me at the moment, like looking at something really nice that I want to get and being like, yeah, I'm going to buy that in March. In a year time. Yeah. Fuck off, Addy. My mates would be like, shut up. You're going to buy that in 2 weeks.
Yeah. No, it was like that. And I had this maybe a warped perception that I needed to wait for life to get underway then. And until then, I was like, well, what's that going to leave me to do the next 6 weeks? Just like sit on my hands.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad we were engaged. It's exciting. And as I started to tell you in on the phone on that call, it's also the greatest exercise of like choice and agency. Like it's one of the greatest exercises of that of my life. I've chosen lots of things, what I want to study, we choose all the time. But there aren't that many times where we choose with the kind of level of, with the length of,
That's not. Keep going, bro.
with like the, how do I say this? The consequence, like the duration of the decision. Like all being well, we are choosing to spend the rest of our lives together. I haven't even chosen what I want to do for work. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of the fact that we've made that call.
Yeah. I think so too, bro. I think, dude, there's nothing more exciting than like a lock-in contract. It's like fucking bring it on.
You're right.
You
know what's
game
cool?
on here.
You know what's cool? And I said this to my housemate earlier in the week. I said, you know what's amazing? Exactly what you said. When there's no plan B, when you like snip plan B,
Yeah.
you lock in.
Dude.
And you figure it out.
Dude.
And guess what? In my like professional space, I haven't done that.
Yeah.
I'm looking around like this. I'm still thinking about other options, other avenues, ways, that's okay. That's cool. But it feels pretty cool to be like, I'm going to get underway with this woman and we're going to do it together. And that's the only way it's going to be.
Yeah.
That's sick. It feels like, you know how I said at the start of this, a decade ago, I sort of became a man, 18, so to speak. That the decade has culminated with that decision. And I haven't actually thought this thought until we've had this conversation. I'm stoked with that.
Great.
Yeah.
I've bro. I've had like a lot of discussions with people, especially young people at my age, like, I don't see the point in getting married. I think that's a pretty consistent thing that you'll hear now.
Yeah.
Like I don't believe in the legalization of marriage the legal aspect of marriage, right? And I don't know if I want to go through that. Like I'll still have the celebration, I've always just had an issue. Like when I was younger, maybe I agreed, saying, you're right. Now I just can't articulate my thoughts on it enough to argue, but
let's try.
Yeah, but
because I've forgot. Look, because I've kind of, I've also moved through those thoughts.
Yeah, bro.
in some way, and so it'd be good to speak with you about where you're at and where your peers are at.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think about it?
Well, with everyone around you saying that, you're kind of like, fuck, maybe they're right.
Yeah.
maybe this is the new age where it's better to just be with someone without getting married, and maybe that, it's not worth going through all the money for divorce or changing your name or shit like that. But I always had an issue with it. I always thought it lacked substance, and when I met people like that, I just thought that they were in themselves missing something, or that there wasn't depth to them. That's what I thought. I still, in some sense, think that I just look at them funny. Like I try to figure out where they're coming from, and I can't really get a grasp on it, right? And I remember a few months ago, maybe I thought about. I was listening to some stuff about marriage and like that sort of contract, and this one guy essentially said, what is living together with your partner? What is it? He said, you know what it is? It's you are suitable for me at this point in time. I'm going to test you out for 2 to 3 years. And if I don't come to my decision by that time, I'm going to throw you. Right? Now, I think that's completely insulting. And people will go with that because they're like, all right, well, subconsciously, all right, well, you're treating me like that. Well, I may as well do the same to you. So at this point, you're a suitable partner for me until I can potentially find someone else who walks into my life.
Yeah.
I don't think I want to participate in something like that because that is a plan B.
Right.
And I think that those are my thoughts on the institution of marriage, I guess, if you can call it that.
Okay.
It's like, come on, like, let's fucking get into this. Let's not give ourselves a plan B. If we fight here, we know we're still going to be together, and we know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
If I was not married to my significant other, and I was, say, living with her for 5 years, and there was no kind of thought about that, or we're just going with the flow, then I think I would just be lost, bro. Like, my mind would be everywhere. The next fight I would have, I would be completely scared because there's just emptiness. You could leave me at any moment.
Yeah.
There's no reason for you to stay.
Right.
I can showcase my flaws at any moment, which I will.
Right.
And you can go, right? And that fucks with both of our brains. And I think that contract is invaluable.
Yeah, okay. That's a good point.
I remember saying to my ex-girlfriend, we had some fights, right? And this was like very early on in our relationship. And, you know, there was a few... There's just... I guess when young people fight, there's always that thought of them leaving in the back of their brain because they want something perfect, right?
Yeah.
You must treat me perfect or I'll go.
Oh, yeah.
And like that gets verbalized from time to time. I'm going to go.
Yeah.
Because this is not where I'm at. And I remember saying to her, like, at one time I just clicked and I just flicked and I said, like, let's not be Australian about this. Let's be Indian. And I got that from my parents because I was like, these two have stuck it out through their marriage, which is an arranged marriage, which is like they weren't even in love by the time they got married, bro. They just got picked out by their parents. And they've had so many fights and like close to divorce. I remember when I was young and like they've just overcome that. And I think that's also in large part due to their religion and their beliefs and their care for me.
Yeah.
And that was like, you know, me saying, let's be Indian about this. I don't want to be Australian was maybe some sort of thing where I'd heard all these people around me, you know, all these people the country that I'm living in now, not believe in the institution of marriage, atheist, you know, throwing away religion.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I was like, fuck, I don't want to partake in this stuff. I want to go through this. That wasn't me saying to her, let's get married, you know, because obviously that didn't happen. But that was me saying, you know what, we're going to showcase our flaws throughout this relationship.
Yeah.
But I want to know that when I do, we can still overcome them and get over it.
Yeah.
You know?
That's
where I'm at, man.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. You know, one of the, just to like offer something on that.
Yeah.
The model of your parents' relationship it's really, it's an awesome example, I think, of the, like a non, let me step back. I'll start again. There's a philosopher, kind of popular philosopher called Alain de Botton. He runs the School of Life. He has published lots of books. And for a dry Englishman, he has a very, very good take on love and relationships. Not in like the sappy way, but in like a I don't know, a dry philosophical knowing way.
Yeah.
And he did this speech at the Opera House, the Sydney Opera House, I'm pretty sure, called, you know, I don't remember what it was called, but it was about, and you'll find it on YouTube, about the romantic lie behind relationships. And when you talk about the Indian and Australian versions of marriage, I think there you have a sort of traditional, cultural, conservative approach to marriage as partnership, and the romantic dream of a relationship where you've got two young Western minds infatuated with the idea of a perfect romantic relationship and anxious or touchy at every hurdle or indication that it might not be perfect.
Yeah.
And he's like, guess what? He goes, putting two people together and asking them to share like a bathroom, let alone a life and a bank account and a house, is like, is hard. It doesn't usually just naturally click into place without friction. It's going to be hard work.
Yeah.
I loved it. That his way of thinking about that was so influential on me. And I think it not so influential, it was affirming because I'd already seen it in some of the cultural, you know, ways that I viewed relationships and marriage and stuff like that, which, you can't separate from the Greek and Greek Orthodox context like you can't from your ethnic and religious background.
Yeah. I think there's so many intimate parts of religion which aren't verbalized, or which a lot of people can't articulate. Like I had one of my really good mates on the last episode, and we had an hour-long debate about he's a self-proclaimed atheist, and I think I'm leaning into religion at the moment, and we were having a debate about which is more valuable for society. And I just was frustrated myself because I couldn't articulate what I really thought. Like he had well and truly won that battle, right? And there's just these little things that I think are left out of the discussion today that really, for me, symbolize and like highlight why I believe in what I believe, I reckon.
Such as?
Well, like marriage, how religion plays a role in marriage, how your beliefs play a role in marriage. Finding someone who believes in similar things as you and is willing to go through that journey with you.
Yeah.
Things like devoting yourself to someone,
cool.
to a greater power, to being grateful. Things like that. I think they're entrenched in us, but they're entrenched in us for a reason. We haven't just come to this because we're some sort of 20-year-old educated person who's, read a couple of books.
Or on the contrary, perhaps we've had to we're both educated in like the liberal Western world, and some of the beliefs or some of the what the Orthodox Church tells you to do is not at odds with, but rubs up against the kind of romantic, liberal, Western education or way of thinking. And let me tell you something. I think that what we're both what you're speaking to really well is that this way of looking at relationships about devoting yourself to someone. What it does is it takes off takes off the mantle personal choice and agency at all costs. Like in the world we live in, one of the reasons it's relationships are such a funny thing is because we're currently like obsessed with choice and like freedom to choose. We're like obsessed with it. Yeah. And that's great, but it's a beautiful thing because what it has enabled us to depart has been beneficial for a lot of people. I really believe that. But it's also going to get us to a point where we're pretty fucked up. Yeah. We're pretty anxious about our choice. And relationships, I think, are one of the first things to be sacrificed at that altar. So,
yeah.
Can I suggest something?
Hit me.
Do you mind if we have a little break and come back to this?
Yep.
Will you pause or just leave
I'm
recording?
Pausing, bruh.
Are both videos back on?
Yeah, we're back on.
Good on that camera.
Dude.
We're back on?
We're back on.
I like the greenery in both.
Yeah. Needed it. And like the lights give a good little effect, I think.
Can you see that?
You can just see it.
Yeah. I rate that.
Yeah.
I rate that a lot.
It used to be just that light, and it was this side of your face got missed out.
It's very bright still. It's
it?
really good. No,
Yeah,
not too bright.
It's good. Yeah.
Yeah, so, mate, I'm having a ball.
Good.
Where to from here, Hadsy boy?
Where did we leave off, bro? Religion, marriage.
Yeah.
Go on.
Well, what do you want to speak about? What do you want to ask?
I was actually going to bring up something, bro, that I found pretty funny. I remember when I first started working with you. Yeah. Can we let's talk about how we met.
Go on.
We met at the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Where you worked as an associate for the Chief Justice.
Yeah.
And I had recently got a job for one of the judges as well.
We met earlier than that.
I met earlier than that, yep.
Went for lunch together with one of the other associates.
Yeah, true.
But, barely got to know each other then.
Yeah. But we had a walk back where we talked about uni and stuff.
Yeah.
I knew you were a legend. But I remember, how was that year for you, by the way? How was the associateship? How was it for you as a whole? I want to talk about that. Yeah.
The associateship was an incredible experience. Ultimately, there were two principal aspects of the day-to-day job, which is participating in criminal law procedure, and organising and diarising and filing.
Yep.
I didn't like either of those two things.
Yep.
It's like 95% of the job.
Yep.
But I loved being in an environment like the courts, which is like an institution where you get to know the people and get to like meet, like get to know the team, and you kind of like engage with all stakeholders. And my relationship with the judge, which was slow burning, but ultimately really rewarding, was epic. And put simply, I don't think I'd be working as a lawyer in 2023 if it wasn't for the associateship that I did.
Right.
You know, I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah.
It gave me an insight into law, which it humanized law for me.
Yeah.
Um,
Big time,
and
didn't it?
Yeah. And gave me role models.
Yeah.
Ultimately, what we spoke about mimetic desire before, I guess is just, it's like, if we are mimetic, like if we copy what we see, choose the right things to copy.
Yeah.
Right? So having good role models is, in that sense, important. Yeah. And I look up to, in many respects, the people that we've been working for the last year. Whether I want their life, whether I'm capable of is another question, but whether I want that life, I don't know yet. But I can say, oh wow, they've lived a good life, committed to a profession. They've been fulfilled by it, challenged by it, constantly intellectually challenged by, and engaged with. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
How about you?
I found it brilliant. And I continue to find it brilliant. I think, like you said, it humanizes the legal profession as a whole, but, you know, people at the top of that legal profession who are the judges. And my relationship with my judge was absolutely incredible. But also, bro, stepping back now, like in the end of my associateship, I've almost realized like how heavy it was. Yeah. I think for me. Yeah. I remember telling you about a trial that really kind of mentally messed me up. And I wasn't sure whether it was the trial at the time, but looking back, it actually was. And like the stuff we see there is like fucking heavy, and we're expected to kind of step back and, you know, display no emotions and fair enough, for a good reason. Yeah. But I didn't realize at all that could take on me, like especially as a young guy coming into that job, being like, oh, you know. Yeah. Who cares? Like whatever, you know, totally. I'm chill with this. This is completely fine. And like my mates would be like, "Oh, how do you go with that sort of stuff?" And it's fine. It's whatever. Yeah, it's whatever. But even recently, bro, like it's you know, with you. This stuff is people's lives here, and you know, thinking about it in that perspective, thinking about fuck, you know, I get to go home here, sleep, be with my family without worries, come back to work. You know, have a good weekend while these people are just being filtered through the criminal justice system, which is like the most unforgiving system. Yeah, it's unforgiving. Whether you're a victim or an offender or an accused person. And very rarely does it leave anyone feeling like great, does it? Exactly. You know, the substantively it's heavy. Yeah. I think I struggled with particularly some of the, I don't know if you want to, some of the historical abuse, and I think specifically the sexual proclivity of those offenders, like the when it related to that, it just got heavy. Yeah. And even this week at work, I've been doing a bit of research in something on a background case that involves this sort of work, and it just it like brings a dark cloud over your heart, in my opinion. Yeah. Look, maybe that's an indication that it's not for us. It hurts. You know, one of the things that gets me is like I feel pain for the people's lives that have been like damaged by the consequences of people's actions. Bro, there's nothing about that job has made me realise that there's nothing about the criminal justice system which makes you want to participate in it. You think so? I think even so, as a lawyer? I think as a lawyer it'd be fine. Okay. Fine. But if you're look, I think it'd be, you know, I don't know. But you know, if you're on the wrong end of that, bro, it's not good. Like even if you're a victim, you know, even if you're making an allegation against someone, like you're getting cross-examined or there could be a retrial where you're gonna have to go through this again or like it's unforgiving. That's system to avoid, hey? Big time, bro. Big time. Where you were getting towards where we met. Yeah. What were you going to ask? No, okay, gotcha. No, this was a funny story that I wanted to say to you. I remember when I first got that associateship, I was like up in arms. I was completely happy, ecstatic, and I knew I didn't deserve it, but in some sense, I felt like I'd earned it. Like, and I'd convinced myself that I did. You know, because I didn't want to feel like an outsider in that job.
Yeah.
Amongst all these law graduates, judges, I'd wanted to feel like I belonged.
Yeah.
And a part of my journey through that was like talking about politics and philosophy and things that I was interested and because that was the world I was living in. And I wanted to showcase my competence and intelligence and that phase I was watching a lot of YouTube stuff and watching a lot of Jordan Peterson and whoever those thinkers were. Yeah. And like not even at that time when I started, but whoever those thinkers were and like trying to, you know, regurgitate that onto people to showcase my intelligence. I knew later on, I was talking to you one time, and I remember just like talking about, you know, this really leftist, empathetic nonsense that I was spewing, and that was my thoughts at the time, and like you weren't nodding, but you were listening, like you were just deeply staring into my eyes, like just intently listening, and coming away from that, because you weren't nodding or you weren't agreeing, but you weren't disagreeing, I thought that I'd taught you so much. Like I thought that, like, you know, Johnny's pretty smart, but I've taught him a few things here. Like, looking back now, I just realised that you being a great listener, like accepted my thoughts at that stage, didn't do anything to rebuttal. You didn't agree at all, but you just listened, and I think for young people we have like a proclivity to think we're the bee's knees and think that because times are changing and we're the ones who are young and like, you know, with that people older than us that have lived more than us can't keep up with the times, that don't know as much as us, that we are enlightened, we are awake. I thought that was a fascinating thing. Like looking back, like just how silly that was in the end. I wanted to share that with you. I thought that was pretty funny.
That's a great thing to share.
Yeah.
Thanks for acknowledging it. There's been something, I think, throughout our friendship that has been amazing, which is, you know, a recognizing that we are separated in age by a few years, right?
Yeah.
But have never felt like that's a you know, a feature of the relationship. However, there is been at certain times like a particular intensity in the and like an obsession in the way that you've pursued, you know, matters of intellectual interest and curiosity to you, and being able to, or like feeling the responsibility as your friend to like hold you in that and just like relish what you're experiencing, and simultaneously assessing what I think.
Yeah.
And going, wait a second, what if I have just, what if we're not, if I'm not on the same page as you right now, what benefit? I'm teaching one another isn't the idea. Listening to one another and learning from one another is the thing.
Yeah.
And like, I'm really fucking proud of the person that you are and the person that I've witnessed over the last 18 months. Like your way of engaging with people, your way of engaging with the world, your way of like picking apart ideas, and the obsession, like, man, that intensity that we're speaking about, young men going off to war and to religion and stuff, like that obsessive capacity is like it's a healthy thing to challenge. Like, talk about experiences of being alive. That's it. Like that's part of it, right?
Yeah.
And so it's been amazing to be on that stretch of the journey with you.
I remember coming to you and saying, you know, I want to discover the truth. I don't know if you remember that, but that was like the peak of it. That was like fuck, you know. Let's I don't know. I don't even know what the truth is, but I was just so like obsessed with I can't even put a finger on it. I don't know what exactly.
How could you? People have spent their whole lives. Thousands of years have been spent debating things like this. But I get that feeling, and I just want to be clear. I'm not saying in any way that like I have done this, but I remember at a period of time, around that time when the wheels were, you know, on the carriage going.
Yeah.
I remember so intensely needing to like find some truth in what I was reading because I felt absolutely like what everyone else had out there was not it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to reject that and find it.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's even amazing, I think, to look at the trajectories of what we've been most interested in. How it sounds like, in some respects, the outwards political becomes, that interest feeds into an interest in the internal, the understanding of the stories, the self, the mind.
Yeah.
Religion.
Yeah. What you believe.
What you believe.
Yeah. Big time, bro.
So yeah, really, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think, and I remember feeling like a place like the courts where you've got the judges who are, by virtue of the fact that they've been in a career for so long, they're pretty certain.
Yeah.
Things aren't black and white, but they're not that grey.
Yeah.
I think it's really awesome. I think I mean this, when you go back down south, when you go to university, I feel like you will plunge yourself back into like grey.
I think so.
Someone said to me last night, you know, that sciences are the most important thing. Get your kids to learn science and all will be uncomplicated.
And I can see the rationale behind that.
Too.
You know?
But I'm a humanities man.
And
I'm going to arm myself to the teeth in fighting that.
Yeah.
The truth is, I think that life and humans and governance of humans and society is really fucking grey.
Yeah.
And I think the humanities are the study of how to navigate that.
Yeah.
And that's the best.
Dude, brilliant. I think that's your time up, mate.
What?
122.
I'm just joking. We can go all day, mate.
We can go all day. It's been good, Johnny.
Yeah, I've loved it.
You've been you've been a brilliant mentor for me throughout this year. So has everyone else in the court, but particularly you. Like I remember, you know, coming to you and just chatting shit and like just getting my frustrations off my chest, and you would push back and then accept when it was appropriate to accept. And I think that taught me an important lesson. I've actually never met a listener like you either. So like I think that was why I was so, you know, so drawn to you, was because just the way you listened to people and the way you treated everyone similarly was brilliant. And like at the moment, something that I'm going through as well that I want to share with you is that I've found myself not being as curious or as good of a conversationalist as I was before. I'd come to the courts when I was, 19, 20. And part of that reason might be, the world I'm in right now, some sort of arrogance that I think I have, or I don't know, but I've been reading some books about how to develop that again, how to be a great conversationalist, how to listen to people and react appropriately, not just trying to share what you think all the time or showcase your intelligence. I think that's important, and you've taught me a lot about that, bro. So thanks for that, and thanks for coming on.
Oh, Adsy boy.
Dude.
Thanks, man. Love you.
Yeah, love you too. Yeah, I remember the first time I said I love you to you, I had to say it 3 times before you said it back. Yeah. That was, it was a kick in the teeth, Johnny.
It's not a light, you don't want to
It's not a light thing. No. You don't want to throw it around. I was there. You weren't there at that time.
Well, I've arrived.
Thanks, bro.